like spiritual warfare. There was seemingly an angel and demon, experience under that parking garage, a battle going on with my life. And I was just praying to God, and that's it, you know, just praying to God, you know what to do. And then when I mean, this is real, this is true. I mean, this is just so hard to believe when I don't talk about it.
You're listening to Inspire Me with Jay, where science meets spirit and stories of meditation and the near-death experience awaken what's possible within us all. I'm Jay, and this is your moment to be inspired. Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay. I'm your host, Jay Spillers, and I have Cory as a guest today. He's going to talk about his near-death experience. Cory, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Yeah, it's hot here. I just came in and getting ready to take a couple breaths and relax and get into the discussion. So it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. So, how did you have a
Um,
near-death experience?
well,
What happened? You were like in a coma. Like what had happened that triggered the near-death experience? Like how did you get in a coma?
from a fall, I fell from an airport, off an airport garage, 6 stories. Went there with a mother, you could say adopted mother, but it's mother to me all my life. And the feds were after her, and she was missing for months. And so physically, I wasn't doing well, and my wife mentally wasn't doing well. They had subpoenaed me to go to a federal court to testify against my mother, and she was indicted. And yeah, it was pretty serious. And it's all documented now publicly. Anybody can go to the record and look at it. And so when I was in court, physically, I wasn't doing well. I didn't even know what was going on. Looking at sign this, say this, I didn't even, and I asked for medical attention and help. And they stopped the transcript in court, rushed me to the airport. With all the interrogation, things it did, to me and my wife, I just put our mindset, both of us, I mean, anybody, healthy or not, but between the both of us, I went into a kind of have diabetes type 1. So I kind of went into a shock physically, needed help. I get rushed to the airport. So she has a nervous breakdown inside. So going back to the event of falling inside, she had a manic episode hitting at me, trying to push me off an escalator. Um, and I just remember like trying to hold her, trying to get, and then I'm kind of out of it. We're ready to board the plane, and there's a marshal, U.S. Marshal. They're there, and I see them, and I just remember, and I see their gun, and they're following us, and I just remember saying, I hope you can live with who you are and what you do, because I thought the whole thing was just fabricated, and it wasn't, I mean, she's my mother too, so I thought, she whatever she got involved with the wrong people, I believe she's doing the right thing. I didn't know what was going on, what is right before the fall. I'm in the parking garage. I drop my keys. I hear my name through the speaker. Security's coming after me because I dropped my bag. Of course, I don't want to say the words, but you can understand where they're coming from, thinking, terrorist activity or something coming after me just for protocol. I'm like, why are they coming after me? Like, what did I do? I'm like, I mean, all this is too much. I'm thinking, you know what? My mind just locked down. And I thought, I'm just as good as dead. They're going to shoot me. They're coming after me. So I panicked my wife, and am I going over these words? Maybe, and I thought to myself, maybe I am better off dead. Maybe that's the right thing. Maybe, and I prayed to God. I was praying to God. I was leaning over. It's all I can recall, and here it is. You get over, I'm over a barrier, the barrier in a parking garage at the airport, 6 stories up, you know, and I'm leaning over, breathing, hearing the name over the intercom, them approaching me. I just remember shadowy figures coming, approaching towards me, maybe a couple, two people, just shadowy, coming towards me, and I'm leaning and I'm praying, and I drop my phone, my keys, and I'm leaning over the edge, just trying to get air. I wasn't like leaning over there, just thinking, oh, I'm going to jump or whatever I was thinking, but I did have the thoughts before going from inside to outside, thinking I'm better off dead. And I thought, if I died, maybe they'd be lenient on my mom. Maybe it would help save her. I mean, it just went through my mind, to be honest. I'm like, yeah, maybe Maybe it's the only thing that's going to help my mom. If I die, it's worth it. It's worth to help my mom. My wife's right. Maybe my mom, and I hate to say it, it's adopted mom because I get to know her. She had a life insurance policy out on me to this day, as far as I know. And it's like, that's another thing I got to deal with because we don't, it's sad. It's a whole other thing, but we don't talk. And there's no, like I said, I never, there was never blame or forgiveness. It's like what happened. I thought, I don't, it just happened. And I always, with tears, cried to my mom, like, you thought you're doing the right thing. And maybe she blamed me for what happened because I was in a coma. And then when I came out, it was like months later and I came back here and would talk to her. And she called me when I was in the hospital in Salt Lake getting life flighted again for, I don't know how many 11th surgery. So I'll get into kind of like, just got it all out, I guess why it's here and there. But yeah, so when I talked to her, I'm like, they got her. And all I can say is to this day, the other two people, these ladies that she was involved with the same charges. I mean, what was this criminal charges? I mean, you can look it up. It's hard. It was just in shock, like a movie, like hard to believe, like treason and conspiracy against U.S. government, hiding millions. All that. I'm like, what? And she did accounting. So she did accounting with these people. And so when you look at the record now, she got probation. They went into prison for the same thing. She didn't. So whether it helped or not, but I just feel like to this day, it hurts me the most is how I'm treated by my family. And I looked at it like whether I could relate to somebody going through something with a suicide. Um, there shouldn't be no blame or guilt. A lot of religions would think, it's an unforgivable sin. You're going to hell. You murdered yourself. So even if that was the sense, everybody's different as far as that experience. All I know is feeling like I can relate, like I didn't look at it like, I don't know, I didn't look like, oh, I just want to die and kill myself. I didn't look at it like that. But I did when I was praying to God, and now I'm going to jump into the spiritual element, is I asked God, take my life, spare my life, help me or save me, do something. And so I was leaning over the ledge, but in my mind, I was like, hey, I'm going to jump. I mean, it's hard. I can't even imagine somebody bringing themselves to kill themselves, have a gun, shoot yourself, jump. I just don't have. So I don't know how other people's experiences with that. Like, hey, I remember the day I just, you know what I mean, and then did it. I don't have any recall memory of like, hey, did that, you know. So if noise a distraction or taking that jump, taking that leap to my death. I don't. All I remember is leaning over, praying to God. But it did go through my mind again. I'm just emphasizing, I go through my mind like, yeah, maybe I'm better off dead. They're better without me. And I'm like, but I know that's wrong. I know morally, I know that's wrong. And so I know it sounds absurd, but I'm praying to God, what's right, just to intervene, help me. And so as I'm praying to God, I felt it's like spiritual warfare. There was seemingly an angel and demon, experience under that parking garage, a battle going on with my life. And I was just praying to God. And that's it, just praying to God, you know what to do. And then when and I mean, this is real. This is true. I mean, this is just so hard to believe when I don't talk about it. I don't talk about much, but then all I know is I'm on the ground, taking my last breath. I'm just looking up. Here it is. I mean, it's not this, oh, there's the light, but yeah, I mean, obviously I'm looking up at the sky. I'm on the ground, literally taking my last breath. And I just remember telling, and the person, maybe they had medical there, was already on the scene. They were already there. Maybe they anticipated it. I don't know. They're there. And, um, I just look at, them, and I wish I could reach out to this day, these people who are involved, because it was just like, it was almost like there's certain during that time of the coma, people that were like angels, I mean, there's just remember this nurse. The nurse wouldn't say that, but to get me home, I was going to die anyways, and she said, well, you're going to do your blood labs. If they do it again, they'll keep you here. I had to try to get a private helicopter to get me back to say goodbye to my family because I had nobody visiting me. I was just trying to hang on for my life. And I thought, well, I'm going to die anyways. Just so I went against doctor's orders to fly because I had a chest tube, my lungs. I couldn't fly. So I had this helicopter trying to fight just to get back. And she's like, well, they're going to do labs. They're going to find something wrong and they're not going to let you go. So I denied it, which is the only time I ever denied the labs to keep this flight. So I know it's so much. But my injuries, so I'm hit the ground and I tell them, I look at them and I said, I'm just gasping my last breath. I know I'm dead. I'm as good as dead. God has me. I know I'm dead. Just tell my kids I love them. And I said, and then I said, I know it sounds weird, my life. I'm like, they're corrupt. I'm like, the court, whatever was going on, it was corrupt. I didn't understand what was going on. And I did, it was a corrupt. That's all my last word. And I know I'm as good as dead. And boom. Evidently, I mean, when I went into a coma, they induced me in a coma. They took me. I was pronounced like I was dying from internal bleeding. I severed an aorta, punctured my lungs, broke my pelvis. My shoulder to this day, half my body's metal hardware. My shoulders wired on, a fused elbow with metal, and I have a prosthetic hip. About 11, I don't know, within that year, about 11 surgeries internally during that time in a coma, induced in and out, in and out. I remember my wife at the time, ex now, but at the time she had told me, and we stayed married for another, I don't know, 10 years after that. We're all about 20 years marriage. But when I came back here, yeah, she told me, she's like, yeah, they brought me back. I didn't know she was there. They brought her back for a couple of days. And then she went back and left while they were investigating and flew the plane around. She's like, yeah, they had you opened up with clamps. They had you in a coma and they left you cut open. They left you open during multiple surgeries because your aorta you had clamped up, opened up, left open. And I was thinking about, she told me that. Um, but whether the experience of that, before the fall, and then during the coma, some of the things were, and we'll go back to it. Okay, but I was like, it doesn't make sense. At first, my experience was being transcendent, like in the air, in another place, and this is kind of odd with my life. It is really odd, and this is true. It's just bizarre and kind of absurd in a way. But I had this experience that I was in a foreign country, and it was an Asian country, but I was intermediate. Like you'd explain it like in like an intermediate state of between life. I mean, dead, you're dying, you're transitioning into whether I don't know how going to heaven, whatever that death, the grave, intermediate state. Um, I felt like I experienced that in this realm that I was, and there was details. There was always like a long going, more vivid, more longer than any dream, and there was good and bad in it. There's good and bad. Um, in that there, it's like there's this judgment thing. There was a time, I don't know if I get to the bad or good first, but there was a time where it's almost like you see other people, their souls, death in this realm. I don't want to say it's like, Beetlejuice or anything, what I mean? But it's like, I don't know how to explain it. But you're in this place and you're seeing other people waiting, and one of them, there wasn't a lot of communication, but I just remember, I'm just trying to remember just, it's hard to capture it, but just this feeling, there was a darkness. It was not good. This is the bad part. It was not good, but there was a sense of this people suffering, waiting, judgment. And it was just like there was, and I don't want to say, Satan, but whatever that, and God was in control. It was all allowed for a reason. It wasn't like you're in this hell, but it was a sense of judgment, and there was an accuser. There's something like Satan there, and just that sense of, I don't even want to, it's just hard to explain, but the deep dark, just like, whoa, like you can't even look at the stare, like you can't even look at them. You can't even see it, and then it was gone. And then as far as the good experience after that was an overwhelming comfort. It doesn't make sense. It sounds funny, but this is just, I don't know how, but the way I can make sense out of it is the mandala. I looked, I didn't understand later, but I was rolled in the comfort of God's embrace in a rug, in this plush, large rug. It just rolled in it. And that was a sense that I was just in pain, but I was just comforted. It doesn't make sense. I was just kind of a metaphor, but what I was feeling in and out of a coma, like when I go back and I was just held by God, it wasn't like you think suffocated. It was just a felt, and it was in this pattern, I mean, there's a pattern that I was seeing a lot. I was transcended in the air. I couldn't get my feet down on the ground. There's this realm, I said, it's like I was in Asia, And I'd go like in these foreign, like in a motel, and then nobody was vacant and nobody was around. And I'd look for somebody. I was looking around in the air, kind of holding to the wall. I couldn't get my feet on the ground, gravity. I couldn't center myself on the ground to walk anywhere. So I was trying to learn how to get around by floating in the air, holding onto the wall, and just kind of going to one place to another. And I was looking for somebody. And by that, um, I remember coming out of a coma and the sensation I could hear through the ventilation. And this I can never, I mean, okay, there's a couple of transcendent experiences, senses where I could hear them talking. They come and give me like, well, get up, I come out of my coma and they come to induce me again. I was in ICU. That I remember them standing between the window, behind a window, saying, "Who's going to have to come and tell me? I'm not going to make it." So they came back. Come on, breathe, breathe. I remember just, you know, coming out of a coma, breathing to dying again. Like they have to induce me, but I heard them talking how they're gonna. He's not going to make. He's not going to make it. And they come back, and then I'm back into a coma, and I'm going back to this realm again. So I remember coming in and out, hearing through the ventilation, other rooms, and them talking, and one of the most ones is I'm just whatever language used teleporting experience that it was so convincing to me that I felt teleported with out of body experience, if you want to call it that way, whatever you want to call that I came back here where I am. It was in Arkansas, I came in Utah, and I went into Target. Evidently, and I believe this even to this day, I don't even understand it. It doesn't make sense. But I went into Target because I was so convinced that because I was watching my kids in an apartment building that they moved to with my wife here, not in Arkansas. When I was there in a coma, my body out of body would look when they're sleeping at this skylight in a room. And it happened to be true. They actually did have an apartment with a skylight. It's not even far from me now. I don't even drive by and think about it. It's just so weird that there is a skylight. They were in that room. And then my wife had told me, like, yeah, that's weird because they were in that room and there was a skylight. I mean, there's not many places here. I mean, you lived here too. It's like, I can name the apartment. Yeah, there's a skylight. So that was really weird. And then I went to Target because I believed that I was here, my body. And so I was so convinced that I went to Target and bought something, got a receipt. And then when I got out of a coma, I told them, look in my bag. There's a receipt showing that I was here. I don't know. I know that sounds crazy. Like, well, I would have had. No, nobody ever looked in the bag that I remember. I just remember insisting and being so convinced, telling them, no, no, you understand. But I couldn't even, I was just whispering, if anything. I just remember just a connectedness of life in all, in the fragments. And again, it's like a metaphor of an orange, but it's like dissecting to it was just so enhanced, like just the sections of an orange and how intricate. I mean, I don't even know how that, again, patterns. There's like just patterns in a connectedness of just everything, even when I was out of it, just eating the first time I ate an orange, and just crying and just emotional. I mean, beyond emotion of just having an understanding of life, how a simple orange has its place in this world.
So, like you said that you could see in the other room where they were in Utah, because sometimes I've heard of near-death experiences where they travel out of body and see things and then it's later confirmed. So you actually saw something and you had it confirmed later to be true?
Just telling me, yeah, they did have a room, my kids in the skylight, you know, the thing going into the store trying to get a receipt. I mean, that wasn't confirmed.
You're listening to the Inspire Me with Jay podcast. Please do like and subscribe to the channel, bringing hope and inspiration to the world.
Did you actually see any did you see God or angels or anything?
I don't know how to explain more of more of an embrace, not just a emotion feeling, but a sense of presence, but not a descriptive, not a description like, hey, this is what God is or looks like. It's just more of a description of embracing the presence, being in that presence. People throughout that were a nurse or a tech, what do they call them? The tech. I remember a guy and a lady that told me, and I felt like to this day, I look at them like I think that, like that was an angel that I was talking to. I mean, why would they tell me some of the things weren't typical, for them to say as a nurse, or I mean, it's just, a good, really empathic person that really, or I mean, that just, yeah. There is one thing I always remember this song. This lady came in just to visit me. I don't know who she was, the relation, and brought this song, and it was Van Morrison, Into the Mystic. I had this lady come in that was a chaplain, hospital chaplain. Yeah, so that meant a lot to me. I guess what I'm saying is to this day, that lady that came in, I should remember her name. I remember I had the name for a while, for a few years. Memory's not good anyways, but yeah, anyways, I have a book she gave me. I guess I'm good getting to it. When she came in, and but that lady that gave me this book, she gave me this book, that lady pastor, and I always remember her just because of that presence of God that was in her to really care. Because you're not going to fool me. I'm as good as dead. You know what I mean? You're not going to, I mean, you're just like, I don't want to hear the whole, you know what I mean? My time left is just embracing death. Um, so anyways, that lady means a lot to me. A lot of people who throughout that journey, to this day, I wish I could reconnect with. The injuries, when I came back, I fought a life-threatening infection. I was quarantined. MRSA came in, was told it's the non-resistant, you can't. I had a PICC line through my heart for another 5 months. Getting rid of that infection, told I was going to die. I got life flighted, more surgery. And so it's been, I didn't go into all that in a care home. Waking up middle of the night, people getting taken out after they die, hearing that. I mean, it's like, just trying to make the best out of life. And I went back, I had a friend, God bless him, that's really God's used to help kind of center my identity that it is in Christ. Friend Wesley, a brother to me, and you love him. And
So, do you think that did this experience transform you?
yeah, it transformed me. Yeah, I mean, good and bad. And, to be honest, like, I think it's all good. So even the bad is really good. And I'm not on anything. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not anything. You're not paying me to say anything. I'm not, sponsored by, blah blah blah. Put a shout out to, what I mean? It's like no, it's got a lot of bad things. You know what I mean? If you feel going through something, it can feel like you're alienated. And then at the same time, it can just you can get a little crazy about it. I just embrace the good and the bad and the ugly. It's definitely transformative